Good morning, everybody, and have a beautiful, beautiful week. Parashat Shavua, Parashat Masey. It's a parasha that's ending the book of Bamidbar, and it's written there on the beginning very interesting phrases. For example, when we talk about the beginning, Ele Masey, those are the journeys of the children of Israel that got out from Egypt to their armies in the hand of Moshe and Aaron. And Vayktov Moshe, and Moshe wrote את מוצאיהם למעשה, מוצאיהם, where what's the out to the journey al pi Hashem, and those are the journeys to Motzaim. It's Motzaim. You can explain it like where they, let's say, the starting point from the beginning, from the place they came. And of course, the question is, Ele is written without a vav. It's not, and those are the journeys. So, Or HaChaim HaKadosh, for example, says, Ele, those are special journeys that nobody can compare it to any other journeys that is written. And the more puzzled thing is that in the same pasuk, you have the same words again. Vayktov Moshe et motzaim lemasaim, and then Ele masaim lemotzaim. Twice the same thing, but in a different order. The beginning is Motzaim, it's like for the place where you got out. Motzaim, Yetziah, getting out, and to the journey. Then it's the journey to where they got out. What do you mean? Normally go on a journey, you go somewhere else. You don't go to a journey to the same place you came from. But first of all, as we said, we're talking here about a different journey from what we think. And when we compare all the journeys and the names that are written here, we will find out that some of them we don't even know. Those are not places that we know before that Am Yisrael were going there. And of course, there's explanation to every one of the names. But the idea is, like the Admor Mislonim says, that the Neshama comes out, Motzaim, the place, the point where you come out is from heaven to a journey that you're going to do here in this world, al pi Hashem. You do whatever God tells you to do. And when you do this, your journey will lead you back to where you came from, which is heaven, but of course fixing all the things you have to fix, and reward is going to be a beautiful, unbelievable Olam Haba. And we're not going to go to the reason why the Neshama comes here, but that's the idea. Each one of us has got his own journeys. There are 42 journeys, and each one of us got those 42 journeys to get on a way to go back to heaven. One of the other explanations is we are now in the middle of Shloshet HaShavuot, Yemei Ben HaMetzarim, between Shiva Asar B'Tammuz to Tisha B'Av, and we are mourning on the destruction of the temple. So, in this point of view, it's Motzaim Lemasayim. God sent us away from Israel. Motzaim took us out of Israel to a journey in the diaspora all over the world, al pi Hashem. And our job is to sanctify the way and go and do our daily life as God wants us to do, al pi Hashem. And if we do this, the journey, Masayim, will lead us back to Eretz Israel, to the Geulah, and to the building of the third temple, Be'ezrat Hashem B'mehera B'yameinu Amen. So we see, again, so much is in a few words in the Torah, and of course, it is only one of the explanation or two of the explanation. And talking about the destruction of the temple, talking about the journey, talking about the way that we do the journey. So in our journeys, there are here and there some difficulties. It's not easy. But we have to do it in the right way, al pi Hashem. Sometimes we think to ourselves, so many years, and we still with no temple. Maybe it's not going to happen. Maybe it's just a legend. So sometimes we need an awakening call to understand and realize that the Mashiach will come definitely, and Bezrat Hashem b'mera b'yameinu, and the temple will restored definitely. It's going to be the third temple, and it's going to be the Geulah, and it's going to be Tchiat HaMetim, and all the things that God promises. But where is it? What's happening? So I don't know if I told you, but last week we've been in Portugal, and we went on the way of the martyrs, the Anusim, those that the Spanish Inquisition forced to become Christian, and they used to live with two faces, outside a Christian and inside a Jew. So at home they used to keep the tradition, the Jewish tradition, and when they went out, they were a Christian like everybody. And if you didn't agree with the Inquisition, so you were burned in the middle and the center of town in front of everybody, alive, burned, tortured, etc. And if they found out that you converted, that you become Christian, but you're not really Christian because you secretly you keep Jewish life or do something that has to do with Judaism, again the same story. There were snitches, there were people that were telling, and you will find yourself arrested, put on trial, and in a few days you are in the middle of the town, Chas v'Shalom, in the center, being burned from only one reason, that you kept your Jewish tradition. Unbelievable. And when, we hear about it, it's very easy, very easy. Okay, there were Anusim and thing. And by the way, a lot of people thought a few years ago that in Portugal, there are no more Jews there, and nothing is left there from those martyrs, from those Anusim. And the real truth is that, for example, our tour guide, took us to a place that for 500 years, Belmonte, I don't know if you heard about Belmonte, that's the place. For 500 years, they kept the Jewish, not only the tradition, but they kept the Judaism by married inside the family. There were 5 families or something, and there was intermarriage inside the family. And what was happening, of course, when you marry family, sometimes there are a lot of problems. But they didn't care, because for them it was crucial and important to stay Jewish. Unbelievable. For 500 years. We met a guy that today he lives in Israel, but every summer for a few months he goes back to Belmonte. He built a museum there, and a lot of the things in this museum, small museum, are things that he got from his ancestors that they used to, like tefillin and other stuff that they used to use for the Jewish tradition. They were hiding it in the walls, in the floor, in unbelievable places that nobody will find out, that they're keeping their tradition secretly. And he was telling us unbelievable stories. For example, I don't know if I told you, mezuzah. You cannot put a mezuzah on the door. You put a mezuzah on the door, they will find out that you're Jewish, and that's it, finished. So he took out a small box from his pocket, and he told us, that's the mezuzah. They used to keep the mezuzah in the pocket, and when they went out of the house, they would touch the wall and put their hand inside the pocket and touch the mezuzah, and then say a special prayer that God will help them and save them from all the problems outside, and will guide them back peacefully and healthy and alive back home, because not everybody got back home. We were going in places and seeing things, like I think I told you last week also, standing in Porto in front of the Inquisition building that has a big sign today about what they did to the Jews there, and saying Yizkor, Kaddish, and Ani Ma'amin, singing Ani Ma'amin, proudly, standing there in front of everybody in the middle of the street, not ashamed to be Jewish, but proud to be Jewish. And people looking at us. And then one of the people approached us, and it came out that he is a descendant of the Anusim from Brazil. And he came to see his roots. And he was like really so emotional that it was unbelievable to meet Jews that are standing there in the middle of everything and saying Kaddish, Yizkor, and singing Ani Ma'amin. We had an unbelievable experience also in shul, that they had a choir that prepared for us special, let's say, songs to sing for us, and also excited about seeing and meeting Jews from Israel. Today, what is happening there all over, they are rebuilding the Jewish communities, and with people that are donating money from outside. For example, in Mishpachat Kaduri, the family of Kaduri, they have also a synagogue in Hong Kong that they built in the memory of one of the family. And also that's what they did in Porto, I think. They built a beautiful shul. And this shul is functioning. There is a small community that is growing, Baruch Hashem. There are people that are coming back from Israel, for example, or from other places in the world, and they want to come back and revive the Jewish tradition and the Jewish life. And they convert themselves back to Judaism. And it's unbelievable to see those people, how they're excited to see us. And they sang a tikva for us. We all sang together a tikva in this shul in Porto. And this is only one of the places. We're going off to other places and seeing all those communities rebuilding themselves, and from the ashes of the burning, it's raising a new community, a new Jewish community that is proud to be Jewish and not ashamed, in the same place where people were tortured because they were Jewish. I don't know if I told you, like in this museum, they had those documents, like the Nazis in Mach Shimam V'Zichram, showing all the names, all the Jews that were burned, and the trial that they had, the names, and what were they blamed of, and the dates. And one of the things, like a child, 14 years old, was burned because the only Judaism, she was Jewish. It's frightening. It's exciting. It's so emotional. And we have to be so proud to be a part of this nation. And so proud that God brought us back to Eretz Israel. And so proud to be a part of this nation that with all the difficulties kept the tradition in a small way, a big way, whatever. Like this lady in the market that was singing a song that her mother used to sing to her every night before she went to sleep. Shema Yisrael Ado, Elokeinu Ado. Unbelievable. And they used to knock when they went into church 3 times on the wall against the wood, which is the cross, and against the other 2 things I don't remember right now. But saying Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu, there is only one God, not like you say, the Christian, there are 3. One, only one. Also, in the middle, at the center of Lisbon, there is a Magen David, and on this Magen David is written what they did to us, to the Jews, and how to burn them, and a few psukim in Hebrew. Very emotional. And also there we said Kaddish in the center of Lisbon. But what gave me courage and hope to see what they went through, and they still kept the tradition, and how today They rebuilding those communities proudly, keeping the mitzvahs that everybody can see. We, of course, were working around with our kippot, with the tzitzis hanging out. And also when I went there in Belmonte, I saw a couple living in a house, and he was doing something inside with a kippah on his head. Unbelievable. In a place that they had to hide themselves. One of the most interesting thing was that the guide took us to a place far away in the middle of nowhere. There was 17,000 acres, dunams, of a place that a mine engineer that was for many years in Angola, he bought it years ago. And then a few years ago, he finished his job and he went on retired, and he decided to go to this place he bought and to organize it and build it so he can live there. And he finds very interesting things, that it gets to a point that one guide phones our guide a few years ago, and tells him, you must go there and see what this guy is founding in his mansion. And he went there. There was 17,000 acres, all surrounded with a wall. And later on we found out that in this wall they were having Jewish families living secretly, that nobody will know about them. And maybe only one of them went out to buy or to do, or maybe even go to church, but all the others stayed inside. Till the day it finished, we don't know why. And we found there Ka'arat HaSeder. We found on top of the entrance there was a menorah, and found something that looks like a mikveh, and something that looked like a synagogue, and in there we found all those things that are a part of our tradition. But the funny thing is that this guy had a name of the Anusim, of the martyrs. And then, when he went to check, he found out, he was called Louis something, I don't remember the old name. He found out that the owner of this property, before it was bought, I think, by the church or something like similar to this, had the same name as he had. And going a little more deeper, it was closing a circle. He was one of the descendants of this Louis that 500 years before he bought this place, and there they had Jewish life inside the walls. And he, without knowing it, bought this place. You know, he put a kippah on himself when he was waiting for us, excited. He had sparkles in his eyes. We danced together. We think, and you know, this experience, I thought, I learned a lot. I learned a lot. And it gave me strength. That if they did what they did, who are we even to complain on a few minor difficulties with God? And how important it is to keep in contact with all our friends, families, and the Jews all over the world. But mainly to see that yes, from a destruction can come out a beautiful, beautiful thing. The Geulah will come. And this is the proof. If a nation can keep the tradition for hundreds of years in the most difficult of condition, risking their life daily, this is a nation that will get rewarded. This is a nation that I am proud to be a part of. This is a nation that will rebuild the temple. B'meira b'yameinu amen. So in those days, in these days that we are standing now, mourning on the temple, on the ruins of the temple, let's raise up the hope and learn from our brothers in Portugal that yes, we have the power, and we don't lose hope, because we know It's going to happen. בעזרת השם, במהרה בימינו, אמן.